All right. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Emily Murase. I am Executive Director of the Japantown Task Force. And tonight we are hosting a community briefing on the Japantown Cultural History, Housing, Economic Sustainability Strategy. The full 97-page report is available for downloading at our website, japantowntaskforce.org, as well as a feedback form. If you have written feedback about the document, please send it in. We'll talk more about that process. I am delighted tonight to introduce Brian Chu, that somebody I have worked with in previous capacities. He is the Director of Community Development at the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. Basically, any nonprofit operating in San Francisco knows Brian Chu's name. He has really dedicated himself to public service for the city and county of San Francisco. Brian, a few remarks.
Thank you so much, Emily. Well, I'm delighted to be here to welcome you all to this briefing on the Japantown CHESS report. I just wanted to make a few brief comments and say that, to be honest, the city's cultural district program is in large part based on the groundbreaking work that Japantown did. In fact, the name CHESS report is taken from Japantown's first report. So your original report predated the actual legislation that created all of the later cultural districts. And because that report was so strategic, so well written, and so all-encompassing, City Hall and the community felt that that should be the title for all of these reports moving forward. It was a delight to work with Japantown, with the current leadership, with Steve Nakajo in the past, putting this together. And I know, because other cultural districts have told me, that the other districts have looked towards Japantown and its cultural district and the task force as mentors when they go through this process. The Japantown community has been more than welcoming and more than willing to share all of its expertise and knowledge and hints and advice so openly that has really allowed this program to flourish. So thank you again for all of your wonderful work. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the details of the CHESS report.
Thank you so much, Brian. As of a couple years ago, JTF turned 20 years old. It has been working in the community on planning and preservation. And a large number of JTF board members are on this call, current and past. And I really want to acknowledge, for example, Steve Nakajo, who was an executive director of the JTF immediately before me, and Sandy Mori, who served on the Japantown Task Force board for the entirety, over 20 years, and recently left the board as the most immediate past president. Just a couple other acknowledgements. Imani Pardu Bishop is here, the Community Development Specialist, Cultural District Coordinator of the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, and another key partner to JTF and the Cultural District, Rafa Moreno from the Office of Economic and Workforce Development Invest in Neighborhoods Division. But to give us the briefing to make our presentation tonight, I want to introduce Grace Lee, Cultural District Program Manager at the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, and Susie Kagami, Japantown Cultural District Manager on staff at the Japantown Task Force. Grace and Susie.
Thank you, Emily. I want to acknowledge the great work of the Japantown Cultural District, the Japantown Task Force, and the broader Japantown community on getting to where you are with the CHESS report. And thank you for inviting us to join you today. I do want to acknowledge there are a few other folks on the city steering committee. I see their names in the participants, so want to acknowledge their work. And I'll talk a little bit more about the city rules in the CHESS report. Susie, do you want to say a few remarks before we get started? Or no?
Hi, everyone. It's been a journey, and I am so glad to be beside Grace in this final last hurrah of getting our CHESS report adopted. So I'm excited and happy. This has been quite a long process. The pandemic didn't help much either. So, but I want to thank everybody on this call who had even just the littlest, contribution to this. So with that, Grace, would you like to start?
I will. So before Susie gets into the details of the contents of the CHESS report, I'm going to provide a brief overview of the Cultural Districts program. Hold on, and the Cultural Districts program builds on San Francisco's legacy as a place of innovation, cultural pride, and movements for social justice. The program was established by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 2018 as a placemaking and placekeeping initiative. And later that same year, San Francisco voters passed Proposition E by 75%, ensuring ongoing funding to cultural districts out of the hotel tax revenue. The program's vision is to preserve, strengthen, and promote San Francisco's distinct cultural communities by supporting residents, legacy businesses, nonprofits, community arts, social practices, and traditions. It focuses on specific cultural communities and ethnic groups that have been historically discriminated against, displaced, and oppressed. And though the program was formally established in 2018, we recognize that many communities, Japantown included, were doing important cultural heritage preservation and stabilization work well before that date. So stepping back a bit, what is a cultural district? The program's founding legislation defines it as a designated geographic area that embodies a unique cultural heritage, meaning that these areas contain a concentration of cultural and historic assets, culturally significant enterprise, arts, services, and businesses. Additionally, a significant portion of its residents or people who spend time in the area are members of a specific cultural community or ethnic group. You can see on this map, there are currently 10 cultural districts located across San Francisco, including Japantown, of course, Calle 24 in the Mission, Soma Pilipinas, the Transgender Cultural District in the Tenderloin, Leather and LGBTQ District in Soma, African American Arts and Cultural District in the Bayview, Castro LGBTQ, American Indian Cultural District in the Mission, Sunset Chinese Cultural District, and the newest cultural district that was legislated just this past November, which is Pacific Islander Cultural District. So I want to provide just a brief sampling of the types of stabilization and preservation activities that cultural districts are engaged in. Susie, can I get the next slide? Thank you. Calle 24 Latino Cultural District and the American Indian Cultural District co-organized Calle Limpia Corazón Contento that activates a commercial corridor in the Mission. And this revitalization effort seeks to legitimize vulnerable local street vendors and offer a pathway to small business ownership. Many cultural districts, including African American Arts and Cultural District, use arts and culture to activate public spaces in ways that celebrate the neighborhood's cultural community and highlight local artists. Castro LGBTQ District has taken a leadership role in efforts to landmark the interior of the historic Castro Theater, a significant site and cultural space for the community. And one of the ways that cultural districts increase cultural competency can be seen through Soma Pilipinas' work of strengthening and increasing language access for Filipino residents. So those were just a few examples that highlight how cultural districts implement programs and activities that foster cultural pride and stabilize their cultural communities. And the districts are supported in their efforts precisely because of how the program was designed as a formal partnership between community and city. Each cultural district has an advisory board made up of members of the community who provide leadership and guidance and help set the vision of the district. The community provides important input and feedback on their needs and potential solutions. And day-to-day activities and making progress on the district's vision is carried out by a dedicated staff. And staff also work closely with the city to achieve a shared vision. The program is coordinated by the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, and we work in collaboration with the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, SF Planning, and the Arts Commission, and each department shares resources and their expertise in their respective fields to support realization of the community's priorities. And these priorities are encapsulated in the CHESS report, which is a report co-authored by the cultural district and city team. And you already know what CHESS stands for. And the report is both a cultural legacy document and a strategic plan that provides a roadmap for stabilization within each district. The stabilization strategies are developed through a robust community engagement process. And I'm sure many of those of you on this in this meeting today took part in that process. And with the coordination of city departments to ensure feasibility and alignment. And we are here, of course, today for the Japantown Cultural District to share back with the community the fruits of your labor. And with that, I'll turn it over to Susie.
Thank you, Grace. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy you're here today. So thank you for being with us. I'd love to share a little bit more about the Japantown Cultural District from its inception to now. So in 2009, leaders in our community conducted extensive outreach to community stakeholders and collaborated with city agencies to create the Japantown Cultural Heritage and Economic Sustainability Strategy Report, or what we refer to as the CHHESS. This was an innovative vision plan for the preservation of historical assets and future economic development for a specific cultural geographical area. The CHHESS was formally adopted by the Board of Supervisors in October of 2013. And because of this work over a 4-year span, Japantown was a valued resource to the city in creating the current Cultural District program. In 2018, when the program was officially launched, Japantown was the first. And even today, Japantown continues to be seen as a pioneer of community organizing for historical placemaking and placekeeping. Just a quick little history about Japantown. As some of you know, San Francisco Japantown is the oldest in the nation. Serving as a chief point of entry to America, waves of Japanese arrived to San Francisco from 1890 to 1909, settling near the South of Market and the ports. In 1906, after the earthquake, Japantown was formed in its current location, and today we are one of only 3 Japantowns left in the US. Historical displacement of our families greatly diminished our cultural community. The incarceration of our Japanese and Japanese American families during World War II, and the forced eviction of residents and businesses during redevelopment in the 60s and 70s continue to have an effect on our community. Today, Japanese and Japanese Americans make up only 1% of the resident population in our cultural district. The work of the Cultural District and Japantown community partners is essential to the rebuilding of Japantown after the pandemic, not only to sustain the cultural assets of Japantown, but also to progress Japantown forward. The strategies in this CHESS report lean on 14 years of community feedback, which began in 2009 with the CHHESS. In 2019, the Japantown Cultural District began the next wave of community outreach by conducting 8 focus groups, 3 town halls, one-on-one interviews, and engaging over 500 participants to participate and update the strategies for this CHESS document. Simultaneously, Soma Filipinas and Japantown Cultural Districts worked with the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development until an unexpected pause took place during the pandemic. However, last September, we all celebrated when Soma Filipinas presented and had their final CHESS report adopted by the Board of Supervisors. And shortly after, in October, Japantown began the process with the Mayor's Office for final review. The community input gathered informed two overarching goals of this document. One, to regenerate a Japantown where traditions converge with innovation and our community is empowered to recover, heal, and move forward from social discrimination in government programs. And two, to secure a future as a historical and cultural heart of Japanese and Japanese American communities. The 25 strategies in this report fall into 6 categories. Some of these strategies are in progress by many of our community organizations across the district, and some strategies are yet to be implemented. I encourage you to download the full 98-page report. As Emily said, the link is available on both the Japantown Task Force and the Japantown Cultural District websites. But tonight, I will give you a high-level overview of the 6 categories and how our strategies fall under them. First, the cultural heritage, conservation, and sustainability strategies seek to preserve our tangible and intangible assets, to include preservation of our historic buildings and structures, support of authentic cultural programming in our arts and nonprofit communities, and lastly, include making historical archives digitally available to help connect and heal those families who no longer live in Japantown. Photos like these identify and confirm that our Japanese and Japanese American community was thriving before the war. The photo here is taken in front of Kimongakuen Japanese Language School. Kimongakuen is one of 2 pre-war buildings still standing today. However, it sits almost vacant and in desperate need of upgrades and repair. Tenant protection strategies include exploring a plan for Japantown's major commercial corridor to address the Japan Center Mall's covenant agreements, adjoining properties between Laguna and Fillmore Streets, and negotiating benefit agreements with property owners. Tenant protection strategies also address preventing further displacement through exploring strategies for the return of Japanese and Japanese American families who live and build in Japantown. Tenant protection strategies are also focused around sustaining small businesses with resources and infrastructure, protecting community-based institutions from displacement, and negotiating protection and community benefits at the city level for existing commercial and nonprofit tenants. And lastly, the tenant protection strategies also explore opportunities to place our community in existing housing. So families who are displaced from redevelopment, i.e. certificate of preference holders, artists, culture bearers, nonprofit employees, and to meet the needs of our families and younger generations. The Japantown arts and culture strategies protect, preserve, and support our arts and culture communities and organizations to be sure the narratives of our Japanese and Japanese American community live on. This includes providing artists with business assistance, visibility, tech support, and resources. The strategy also supports the creation of a versatile intergenerational multi-use art space to also be used as a gathering space to produce events, build community, encourage collaboration, and amplify cultural narratives. Economic and workforce development strategies support small businesses with resources and infrastructure, and succession planning assistance to ensure Japantown remains a thriving commercial, retail, and arts district. Economic workforce development strategies also promote Japantown widely to encourage visibility, funding, and resources to those outside of Japantown. Land use and housing strategies explore equitable development and housing to reverse the impacts of redevelopment. This includes preservation, sustainability, and development of Japantown's physical assets, re-envisioning ecological, sustainable development for their future, expanding community housing and space for our community-based institutions, and exploring opportunities to establish community ownership. Lastly, the goals of the cultural competence strategies include: 1, building a strong community that brings together an understanding of various perspectives, including those of multiple generations, people of mixed heritage and recent Japanese immigrants. 2, to empower and advocate for Japantown. And 3, to create a Japantown that embodies the spirit and values of the ever-evolving Japanese and Japanese American culture. We would like to acknowledge the over 500 community stakeholders who participated in the focus groups, town hall meetings, and one-on-one interviews to create this community vision plan. Many of the attendees were merchants, business owners, residents, and community members, of whom belong to, work, or receive services from one or more of the following organizations listed here. We would also like to acknowledge the journey by all who made this CHESS report possible: the Japantown Task Force and Cultural District staff, and the CHESS authors and editors. We would also like to acknowledge the Japantown Task Force Board of Directors, who are representatives of our vast community and guide the good work we do in our cultural district. So here are our next steps. We'd love to hear from you. So there is a form, written feedback form online. So we'll place the link in the chat. You may also email us at info@japantownculturaldistrict.org with your questions or comments, or give us a call. And we would ask that you submit your comments before next Friday, February 24th, as we are making final edits to submit to the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development and the Board of Supervisors for review. Most importantly, we'd love for you to join us on the steps of City Hall on March 23rd for a press conference, and thereafter public comment in the Board of Supervisors Public Safety Neighborhood Services Committee meeting. It will be there that the Japantown CHESS document will be presented with a request to move to the full Board of Supervisors for final adoption. The adoption vote will be on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, in the full Board of Supervisors meeting. Again, you can download the CHESS document and complete the feedback form online on both the Japantown Cultural District and the Japantown Task Force websites. And with that, I will turn it back to Emily. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace and Susie. I know it's only been a couple of weeks since the final draft was released for review, but we wanted to offer this briefing to facilitate your review. And so we have with us a subject matter experts on the city's cultural district program. Of course, you've already met Brian and Grace. On the Japantown CHESS itself, I wanted to introduce Lori Yamauchi, a former planner for the city's planning department and past vice chancellor for campus planning at UCSF, who we're lucky enough to have as a JTF board member, and of course, Susie. Since we want to get to as many questions and comments as possible, we ask that you keep your questions and or comments to 2 minutes. JTF staff member Akiko Clank will be timing each speaker, and you'll hear an alarm when your time is up. So if you'd like to raise your hand or type your question into the chat box, we'll try to get to as many comments as possible. And just a reminder, the full document is available for download on our website. If you would like to have a hard copy, they are available at our office in Japantown. It is, 97 pages, so we're happy to provide that to you. I will put Akiko's email address into the chat box so that you can contact her to arrange for pickup from our office at 1765 Sutter in Japantown. And we are open to questions and comments. Maybe we've done such a great job that nobody has questions.
I would love to acknowledge my former colleague who was in my spot, a few years ago. Nina Bazan Sakamoto, I think, is also on this call, and she was the first cultural district manager and got this CHESS process started. So I just wanted to acknowledge her. Thank you, Nina, for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And I'd be remiss to not acknowledge Julia Sabori, who I don't think is on this particular call, but she was my predecessor and the person who really spearheaded the launching of this program. And I've only been here for a few months, so really the bulk of the work in shepherding the CHESS process and working with the Japantown team was done by her. And just a few other folks that I want to acknowledge who I know are here, because I'm scrolling down the list of participants. And sorry if I miss you, but I see Lauren Hiller from the planning department, Rafa Moreno from OEWD. Let's see, I saw a few other folks, and Sydney, also from planning. All these folks were just really instrumental in helping us review the strategies and ensure alignment and feasibility. So thank you. And sorry if I missed you and you're in here.
Open for comments and questions.
Yes, we have one question in the queue right now. So the question is from Matthew Barkus. What are the most relevant concepts for Japantown businesses to be aware of in the report?
Lori, would you like to take that one?
Yes, so there are two categories that where small businesses in particular are referenced in the strategies. One category has to do with tenant protections, and that has to do with helping provide protections to existing businesses in Japantown and assisting them with support and infrastructure. The second category has to do with economic and workforce development, which also looks at ways that there can be small business assistance provided to small businesses through a small business assistance center, as well as creating offering succession planning assistance to businesses that may be going through transitions. So those are the two categories and strategies that I can think of that would pertain to existing businesses.
Thank you, Lori. Another question from Matthew: is the tenant protection provided separate to the, is the tenant provided, does it work separate from the San Francisco Legacy Business Program?
So, I would like to invite Rafael Moreno from the Office of Economic Workforce Development to explain a little bit about how the Legacy Business Program works. And then there is a reference to the Legacy Business Program in the CHESS report, but to the extent to which there needs to be negotiations with specific property owners on protections for businesses that might be affected by development, such as on the malls blocks that Susie referenced, there might be a separate effort that the Cultural District could help with to help protect businesses.
Hey, thanks, Lori. Rafa, everyone from OEWD. So the Legacy Business Program itself, if once registered as a legacy business, which has to go through the legislative process, as well as like a time period of that your business has been operating. I want to say 30 plus years, at least 30 years minimum. And then usually the district supervisor is the one who then nominates the business to go through the legislative process to become a legacy business. Once you're a legacy business, there is the support from the city in terms of like the marketing of your business on our website, etc. But specifically what we provide is the rent stabilization grant for our legacy businesses, so they can help stabilize their business long term with and working with their property owner, so that we can ensure that this business can stick around for a lot longer. And then, of course, there's some of the things I mentioned, that was Lori was mentioning around what's in the CHHESS. Some of these things currently exist, right? But also, how do we enhance that, and how do we target the work within the J-Town community?
Thank you, Rafa. We really appreciate your partnership. Are there other questions or comments?
Yes, we have a question in the chat from Grace Harkiri.
Hi, Grace. Will the Japantown Cultural District be working with the Japantown Community Benefit District and Japantown Merchant Association to make sure efforts to support our small businesses are not duplicated? Who would like to take that? I can take that. Sure. Yes, of course. We don't want to duplicate efforts. Our resources are limited. So we want to work in collaboration. Grace is Executive Director of the Japantown Community Benefit District that does a lot of work directly with merchants and provides lots of public safety information to the community and runs the Community Ambassadors Program. And we definitely want to support our Merchants Association. So yes, that's definitely a goal. Other questions or comments?
Can I also add to that, Emily?
Yes.
Just because it's related to CBD and JTF. I think just from our city side, from OED, just really for us, this is also a way, this is a roadmap, right, for the J-Town community, and how we as a city and the community as a whole, not just the JTF, but the CBD and the merchants can really work together towards some of these efforts that are consistent with the CHESS report. And that's going to be part of, the roles that us, my peers from MOH, Planning and Arts Commission will all be, as a city, kind of the city family, working together to make sure that these efforts and strategies are being really thought through and supported.
All right. Let's see. Nina had a question. Which of the CHESS tactics will be prioritized first for implementation? I think our goal is to get it approved first by the Board of Supervisors. So Susie put up the schedule for approval, and we'll be submitting it to the Board of Supervisors in March and hope to have a final vote on it in early April. And then, it's really a community discussion, and no one person owns the CHESS. It belongs to all of us. And so we'll all need to roll up our sleeves in terms of the implementation of it. But our near-term goal is to get it approved.
Awesome. Thanks for your response, Emily. I'm also wondering, how can we as community members support this while it goes to the Board of Supervisors?
Great question. We are asking for letters of support. Once you have had a chance to review the document, we would love to include your letter of support in our packet that's going to the Board of Supervisors in just a couple weeks. So if you, we do have a template language, you can contact us at info@Japantown Task Force. But we are soliciting letters of support, and we are also available to give presentations to your board of directors if they need to sign off on a letter of support. So we're also, soliciting from individuals as well.
Oh, okay. So individuals, but also if I'm part of a board that I believe will be fully in support of it, they can, as a board, can also sign off and support it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, great. So we'll have templates for that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Susie, would you like to be the contact for that, or should I send it over to info@Japantown Task Force?
Either way, I can put my email in the chat as well.
Great. Let's see, we have another question. How much funding will the CHESS program have access to, and what are the key metrics of success for the CHESS program once approved?
I can jump in here. So I think the CHESS is a living document. If you kind of can look at it as a 3-year strategic plan, there are some strategies that are in progress, again, by both cultural district, working with community partners, as well as our community partners actually tackling some of these strategies themselves. So in terms of funding, currently Cultural District is funded as part of the Cultural District program, which is funded by Prop E tax funds from entertainment and hotel tax. And then what are the metrics of success? So I think the success, I think it's ongoing, really. We will just kind of tackle these strategies as we go. As we know, especially with the pandemic, life can just pivot in a moment. And so, which we have had to shift and move some of our priorities around as well. So in terms of metric, I believe, and Grace, correct me if I'm wrong, but we keep in touch with the Mayor's Office of Housing Community Development. We meet regularly. And I think this, once it's approved by the Board of Supervisors, I think that starts the 3-year time clock, if I'm not mistaken. And then we will revisit maybe halfway through that period, relook at the strategy, shift as we need to, and then maybe start the whole process over again. Grace, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, the idea is for the CHESS, as any strategic document, planning document should be, as like you said, as living documents that really stays up to date with the needs of the community and what's happening in the larger landscape. So yes, it will be revisited at minimum every 3 years, but I imagine because the district will be continually working on the strategies, it'll really depend on community which ones to move forward, and if some require some pivoting, then it'll be revisited earlier.
All right. We have a question from Jeremy. What will the process be for monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the strategies? Again, this is a community document. For example, Japantown Task Force is not responsible for every element of every strategy. It really is up to the community. So I think once it gets adopted, we can start to have a broader conversations about, and going back to Grace's question about duplication, who is going to take the lead on which element. So that's when we can start to talk about implementation. But the cultural district staff at the city gathers all the cultural districts together monthly, and there's a lot of information sharing. Each cultural district is going to have to determine their own goals and implementation milestones. So this is very much a collaborative sharing kind of a situation. Let's see, we have a question from Glynis. Will there be a process to update the CHESS in light of what Susie mentioned within 3 to 4 years? Is that a question for the city folks, for Brian or Grace?
I think that question was asked as Susie.
Yeah, you already answered that. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Sorry.
all right. Let's see, we're going to hear from, let's see, Nina has another question. I imagine some of these strategies will take more than 3 years to be accomplished.
I will answer that. Absolutely. I think Japantown was very robust. I'm not sure how the other cultural districts are coming through, but the information gathered in this document was extensive and really on point. The strategies in this document, some of them we will continue to kind of work towards, even if we've made small accomplishments towards those goals. I think we're always going to be looking at ways to preserve, protect our community, however it may look. So I think again, it's kind of a living document, and I feel that the cultural district, will keep a good pulse on that and work with MoCD to make sure that we are focused and clear on what those priorities are for now.
I understand there is an issue with our written feedback form, but Melissa has figured out the best way to access the form. Melissa, can you just
Yeah.
share with the audience?
The link that was just shared in chat by Yahiko is now the correct feedback form link. So please use that link to respond. And then we also have a question in the queue from Matthew.
Is there any plan to reestablish sister city status with Osaka? So I actually serve on the Osaka San Francisco Sister City Association board. And as far as the San Francisco piece of it is concerned, we have not terminated that relationship. We're committed to sisterly relations with Osaka. It's important to note that the pagoda on the Peace Plaza was donated to San Francisco from the people of Osaka. The Osaka local government decided that they would not participate in the sister city relationship, and we're working on that. There's a big expo in Osaka in a couple of years, and hoping to revitalize that relationship. But also, one thing that San Francisco local grassroots folks has done is establish relationships with grassroots organizations, citizen organizations in Osaka, rather than with the city hall there. Let's see. So Nina asks, will we be receiving responses to our feedback at a certain time? Susie?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So people will be giving feedback. And so, we're collecting written feedback tonight for at least another week. Nina's question is, will the people who submitted feedback get a response?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is kind of my priority for the next month or so until we get this pushed through the Board of Supervisors. So I know I'm myself, Emily, Melissa, and Akiko on our staff are all making presentations to various boards in Japantown right now, with hopes that we get immediate feedback from their meetings, or and then also a letter of support for this effort. But also, if you submit your feedback between now and Friday, we will certainly make time to be sure that we connect. So.
And to be honest, we would love your very specific feedback, language changes or whatever it is, like as specific as possible, because we are on a very tight timeline. We will gather that feedback, pass it over to Grace and Brian's team, and it may or may not change the document. That's really, this document belongs to the city, and the city makes the final decisions of what goes in and what does not go in. Obviously, we've had a very deep partnership around this, but I don't want to overpromise on some of the feedback. But, again, it's a living, evolving document, as Grace has stated. So we will certainly keep all of the feedback in mind as we move forward. Let's see, any other comments?
We have one from Rich Hashimoto that just came in.
Okay. Excuse me. Will this document help restore the damage done by the redevelopment agency? As many of you know, homes were demolished to build the Peace the Japan Center malls, and those housing units were never brought back to Japantown. So there were a lot of broken promises when that happened. And so Rich's question is, will this document help restore the damage that was done by the redevelopment agency? Lori, do you want to take that one?
Yes, Emily. So there's a specific strategy under tenant protections regarding strategies to protect residential tenants from displacement and to place certificate of preference holders, among others, in existing housing. And that directly relates to the implementation of the housing element that was approved by the city recently. That's another strategy in the land use and housing section of this report. For those who are unfamiliar with the housing element, it's a large document, but talks about protecting communities of color and particularly helping repair the damage that was done by governmental policies, in particular to communities like Japantown. And so through the promotion of both protection of existing housing and as well as development of new housing that would be available for particularly affordable housing. So those two aspects of the report, I believe, specifically speak to the repairing the damage that was done by redevelopment.
Thank you for the question, Richard. We just have a time for a few more questions or comments.
I'll make a really quick comment about the housing. I would also like to put an emphasis on creating housing for artists and culture bearers, because that's remedying the past, is what the certificate of preferences addresses. But also into the future, we want to have people that will continue the culture in the physical space. So I know that that's in the CHESS, but I just wanted to especially highlight that part. The necessity of that, and for that to be very visible for people in the city.
Thank you, Nina. Yes, arts and culture is very much a strategy within the CHESS, and housing is also a very big agenda item within the Japantown CHESS. So I think we're going to start wrapping up. I'd like to invite our subject matter experts to say a few words before we close, starting with Brian, then Grace, Lori, and Susie.
I'll just say thank you so much, everyone who attended. We know you have so many demands on your time, so to take this time to spend with us, we really appreciate it. We'll take all of your comments to heart. If you do have more comments, sometimes you click off the meeting and right after you leave, you remember one more thing you wanted to say. Please feel free to send those comments in to the task force. We really do take every single comment very, very seriously. So thank you again for spending time with us.
Thank you so much, Brian. Grace?
Thank you, Emily. Thank you all. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight and walk through this presentation with us, and really want to encourage you all. I know we keep saying it's a really long document, 97, 98 pages, but it is such a rich, cultural document, because it not only lays out all the CHESS strategies in more detail, but there is a cultural legacy statement in there that talks about some of the history that Susie alluded to of the district, which I think is such a hugely grounding piece of the community. So thank you again, and I'll turn it back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Grace. We'll hear next from Lori.
Yes, I want to join the others in thanking everyone for participating in tonight's briefing. And I just want to help challenge everyone here to think about the goal. One of the goals of the CHESS document is to regenerate Japantown into a new reality into the future and not just return to the past. So I think that involves thinking out of the box a little bit and breaking down some of the walls that perhaps get in the way of our work together. And so I really would love for everyone to think about that going forward. And I'll return it to Emily.
Thank you so much, Lori. And Susie.
I'd definitely like to echo what everyone said, but I want to just say how important this document is to me as someone who has spent the last 20 years in Japantown. And I really see this as a vision plan, and I really am thankful for the community's input to actually take the time to see a future Japantown. And you know, some of these strategies are to preserve and to protect, which we definitely need to do. But as Lori said, we also need to look forward. And so raising a child in Japantown as well, it's so important to me to preserve this for our future generations. And so I want to thank everyone for this opportunity that I've, you know, had the small part of pushing this through, but you know, it really is our whole community that came together to make this possible. So we can stand on it, lean on it. It's once we get it through, it's legislation and we can refer back to it. So I ask the community to please read it, to please comment, give us our suggestions. My email is in the chat. Most of you know how to find me anyhow, but again, thank you so much. And let's move this forward. Thank you.
Yes, so the final draft is out for public review. Again, we're accepting comments till a week from Friday on the 24th. We'll turn it around to MOHCD on the following Monday. We hope to introduce this to the Board of Supervisors by March 7th. We would love to get your letters of support a couple days before March 7th so it can go in with the packet to the Board of Supervisors. And then please hold the date of March 23rd for a committee hearing on the Public Safety and Neighborhood Services Committee, where we invite you to come and comment on the CHESS, as the Board of Supervisors Committee will make a recommendation to the full board. And we expect a final vote at the Board of Supervisors April 4th, but there's no chance to make public comment at the full board meeting. That your chance to make public comment is really at the committee hearing. So we are almost there, but we do need your support for the next 6 weeks or so. So please give us your comments, send us your letters of support. We would love to be able to have this all tied up in time for the Cherry Blossom Festival in April. So thank you so much. I want to acknowledge some folks behind the scenes, JTF staff, Akiko Clank, Melissa Bailey Nihei, Lauren Nosaka, and Max Nihei, who has been staffing tonight's web event. We thank them all for their hard work behind the scenes. And thanks again. We hope to hear from you. Good night.